Hello and welcome to this video from Excel Dev Studio. This is video number 4 of 6 from Introduction to Building Microsoft Excel Solutions with VSTO. VSTO stands for Visual Studio Tools for Office. With VSTO, we can build solutions to extend what Excel can already do. In this video, we are going to discuss creating and customizing a ribbon for a VSTO document level customization and Addin solution. Video 1 gives a background on VSTO and compares it to other Excel development tools. Video 2 goes over Section 2, setting up your environment. Video 2 also discusses Section 3, the 2 different types of Excel solutions we can build. Video 3 covers the Excel object model and gives a background on the main Excel objects and how to use them with detailed examples. For VSTO, we can add a custom ribbon with functionality to Excel. Adding a ribbon can be a convenient way for users to access and use your automation features. They can have the same look and flow as standard Excel functionality. In this video, we're going to cover 3 topics. First, we will demonstrate creating a ribbon. The process is the same for both document level customization and add-in solutions. The only difference is that for document level customization solutions, the ribbon will only be available when that particular workbook is open and active. For added solutions, the ribbon will be available to all workbooks. Second, we will cover how to position the ribbon. When we add a ribbon, we have the option to include it with the generic Addin tab or as a standalone tab and even select the order. For example, we can add a new ribbon and position it right after the Home tab. Finally, we will discuss the types of ribbon controls we can add and how to use them with examples. There are 15 possible ribbon controls available. Some like the box, group, and separator controls are used for organizational and presentation purposes. Others, such as the button and checkbox, are used to call a procedure and execute your automation features. The process for creating a ribbon is the same for both an add-in and a document level solution. For this video, we will demonstrate with an add-in solution. For more detailed creating documentation level or add-in solutions, please see video 2. Video 2 also covers setting up your environment to make sure you have the necessary APIs to develop your Excel solutions. Now, let's create a new VSTO add-in solution. I have here Visual Studio 2022. If you're starting from the main Visual Studio screen, select Create a New Project on the right side. We get to the screen where we can search for projects. We want to look for Excel VSTO Addin. I already have a shortcut for it on the left side, and we'll just double click. Here in the configuration screen, I will update the name to Ribbon Addin Demo 1, leaving the default values for location, solution name, and the .NET Framework version, and we'll press Create. Here we have our VSTO Addin Excel solution. The next step is to add a ribbon control. To add a ribbon, we go over to our Solution Explorer and right-click on our project and select Add New Item. We get here and we select Office SharePoint on the left side. Now we can choose a ribbon for Visual Designer or XML. We will select Visual Designer. XML is the older version that is manual. The Visual Designer has a drag and drop feature similar to standard WinForm controls. We leave the default name Ribbon 1 and press Add. We now have a ribbon class in the Solution Explorer, and we have a Visual Ribbon Designer. The first thing we notice is that in the Ribbon Designer, there are 2 tabs. The first tab is the File tab. The File tab represents the File menu in Excel. If we want to add functionality that will appear when the user goes to the File menu, then we put it here. The second tab says Tabs Add-ins. This is our tab where we can add controls with functionality, and by default, it will appear under the built-in Add-ins tab in Excel. We will go over how to make it a standalone tab later in the video. Next, let's focus on the toolbox pane. Under the group Office ribbon controls, we will find available controls we can add to our ribbon. There are 15 of them. We will go over how to use each one in more detail later, but for now, let's do a simple example and add a button control. To add a control, we simply drag it from the toolbox to the ribbon. We drag a button to the tab's add-in and also add an event handler for when the button is pressed. To add the event handler, we double-click the button. When the button is pressed, we will get the message, "Hello World." Let's also add a button along with an event handler to the file menu. To access the file menu, we click the little triangle and then we click it again to hide it. We now run the project. This will launch our ribbon in Excel. Here we are in Excel. To find our ribbon, we look for the Add-ins tab. And here it is. And it shows the button we added. We double click it, and as expected, it says, "Hello World." The Add-ins tab is where ribbons go if they are not specified as a standalone tab. Now, let's go find the button we added to the file menu. We go to the file menu and we see it. Next, we're going to go over how to make our ribbon a standalone tab and how to position it. To make our ribbon a standalone tab, we need to change its control ID type property from Office to Custom. To do that, we go to the property window for the Control tab. To view the properties for the Control tab, we click anywhere on the tab control itself, or we can select it on the document outline window. To have our ribbon appear as its own tab, we change the control ID type from Office to Custom. We can then specify the name in the label property. For example, we will update the tab name to My Ribbon 1. To also choose the order of our ribbon, we go to the Position property. We can expand it and then choose before or after another Office ribbon. For example, we can specify after the Home tab. To do that, we select after Office ID, and then we enter the ID for the Home tab. These are the Office IDs for the main built-in Excel tabs. These are also listed below. The Office ID for the Home tab is Tab Home. The other property we want to highlight is the key tip. The key tip property is used as a short key combination to activate our ribbon. A key tip must have from 1 to 3 uppercase characters and must not contain spaces, tabs, or new line characters. If our key tip conflicts with built-in Excel controls or other add-ins, Microsoft Office will assign a non-conflicting one automatically. One that doesn't contain a conflict is K. So if we enter a key tip and when we run the project, we see a different one, that means that there was a conflict and it was changed by Office. Let's run the project to see the changes to our ribbon. Here we are in Excel. This, as expected, our ribbon is after the Home tab. If we press the Alt key, we see that K is the shortcut to activate the ribbon. In summary, a ribbon by default will be added to the built-in add-ins tab, and we have the option to make it a standalone tab and select its name and position. Next, we're going to go over in more detail the 50 controls that we can add to our ribbon. We are now going to discuss adding controls to our ribbon. There are 15 possible controls we can add, as we can see in the toolbox. The first control to discuss is the tab control. The starting point for adding controls to a ribbon is to first have a tab. By default, a ribbon already comes with 2. The first one is the File menu, and the second tab was tab 1. That also included a group control. If we want to add another tab, we can by dragging from the toolbox. For example, we can add one and call it My Ribbon Tool. After we have a tab, we need a group control. To visualize the hierarchy of a ribbon, let's review the document outline. At the very top is the ribbon control. The levels below are the tab controls. The first tab is the File tab. This one represents the file menu in Excel, as we discussed earlier. The second tab is also auto-generated, and it has a group control, and below it is a button that we added earlier. The third tab is the one we just added, and before we can drag any controls to it, we need a group control first. So let's add a group control, and we can give it a name by editing the label property. We can also provide a dialog launcher at the bottom right. To do so, we select Add Dialog Box Launcher. The dialog launcher will give the user the option of opening a window that is handled by the dialog launcher click event handler. Now that we understand that we first need a tab and then a group control, let's cover working with the other controls we can add to our ribbon. To demonstrate, we will use this project called Ribbon Addin Demo 2. There is a link below to download it. Let's go over the button control. The button control is probably the one that we will use most often. In our ribbon here, we have a group to showcase the button control. The button control can be displayed 5 different ways and has a click event. It has 2 size options, regular and large. Buttons 1, 2, and 3 are regular size, and 4 and 5 are large. Button 1 has an image and label. Button 2 only has a label. Button 3 only has an image. Button 4 has an image and label, and button 5 only has a label. To set the options for a button, we go to its properties in the property window. For example, here we have the properties for button 4. To choose the size, we change the control size property. Right now, it's large, but if we wanted to, we can make it regular by choosing regular instead. If we choose an image for our control, we can either use our own or use one of the built-in Office icons. To use the Office icons, we just need to know its ID. To look up the ID for the Office icons, I'm using the site called bird-toolkit.com. There is a link below. Once we find the icon we want, we copy the ID and assign it to the Office Image ID property. For button 4, we are using the File New icon. We then have the option to show the image or hide it by setting the Show Image property to true or false. We can also control to display the label for the button by setting the Show Label property to true or false. However, the Show Label property can only be set to false when the button is regular size. If the control is set to large, the label will always be true. The other properties we want to highlight are Screen Tip and Super Tip. Screen Tip is the text that appears when the user moves the pointer over the button. Super Tip also appears when the user moves the pointer over the button, but it can be multi-line. If both are set, the Super Tip appears under the Screen Tip text. The button control also has a click event. For button 4, when the user presses the button, they will see the message, "Hello World." The properties we just covered for the button control are common to the other controls, as we will see shortly. Now let's see our 5 buttons in live mode by running the project. We see the 5 buttons, and pressing button 4 says "Hello World." By default, controls are arranged in top to bottom, left to right fashion with a maximum of 3 controls vertically. If we want a different layout, we can use the box and button group control. The box control is used to group other ribbon controls either horizontally or vertically. The button group control is used to arrange other controls in a horizontal orientation. In order to use the button group, we need to embed it in a box control first. For example, here we have 3 button group controls embedded in a box control. To better view the controls, let's use the document outline window. The button group controls are in group 2. First, we have a box control, and then we have 3 button group controls. Button group 1 has a button and a gallery control. Button group 2 has a button and a toggle button control. Button group 3 has a button, a menu, and a split button control. As we can see, all the controls in the button groups are horizontal. Right now, the box control is set to vertical, and if we change the box style property to horizontal, then all button group controls will be set in a straight line. We probably don't want to lay out so many controls in this manner, but it does emphasize the capabilities of the box and button group controls. Next, we go over the checkbox control. The checkbox control provides the user a check or uncheck option. We can set its initial state with the checked property. It has an event handler for when it's checked and unchecked. Our example here has 3 checkboxes in group control 3. Turning over to the live ribbon, we can see the 3 checkboxes, and the middle one is already set to true. The combo box control is a hybrid of an edit box and a dropdown control. A user can type a value in the edit box or choose from a predefined list. The values in the list can be specified at design time or changed dynamically at runtime. It has events for items loading and text change. In our example here, in group 4, we have 3 combo boxes. Just like the button control, we can have an image and or a label. To add items to combo boxes, we use its collection property. Here in this window, we can add or remove existing items. An item can have a custom image or an office icon. We can also set the screen tip and super tip properties. Here are the combo boxes in live view. If we start typing, it autofills from the predefined list, or we can select manually. Next, let's cover the drop-down control. It is similar to a combo box in that it allows choosing from a predefined list, but does not have the edit box feature. Just like a combo box, it has an items collection property, but it also has a buttons collection property. There are event handlers for button click, items loading, and selection change. In group 5, we have a sample drop-down control. Adding items is just like the combo box. We use the items collection property. To add buttons, we select the buttons collection property. We have all the similar properties available to a regular button control. For example, here we use the Find Next office icon as the image. In live view, we see that our dropdown has 3 items and 2 buttons. The gallery control is similar to a dropdown as it allows choosing from a predefined items list and has buttons at the bottom. Unlike a dropdown control, items can be displayed in a grid instead of a list. We can control the layout of the grid by selecting the rows count. It has event handlers for button click, and items loading. The button click event is for when any button is clicked from the bottom of the gallery. The click event is for when any item from the grid is clicked. Here we have 2 gallery controls on group 5. Adding items and buttons would be the same as a dropdown. We would go into the items and buttons collection properties. To control the layout of the grid, we can limit the number of rows. For the first gallery control, let's limit the rows to 3. And for the second, we will leave the defaults. Both gallery controls are an exact copy except for the row count. Let's see the difference in live mode. We see gallery 1 has 3 rows and 5 columns, and gallery 2 has 4 rows and 3 columns. Next, let's cover the menu control. The menu control is used to provide traditional menus that can drop down from the ribbon. It has display options similar to a button control where it can have a label and or image. It has two size options, regular and large. The menu control can contain a list of other controls that can include additional menu controls, which in turn can drop down more controls. Menu items can be loaded at runtime by using the dynamic property. It has an items loading event, which is raised before the menu is displayed, so the items collection can be modified before the menu is shown. Here in Group 6, we have 4 menu controls. They have been configured to show the different display options. To add items to a menu control, we can click the down-facing triangle. From here, we can drag controls to it. For example, we can drag another button. This menu includes a button, checkbox, another menu, and a gallery control. To hide the menu list items, we compress the upper-facing triangle. Switching to the live mode, we can see the final result. The next control to cover is the split button. The split button is similar to the menu control in that it can drop down a list of other controls that can include additional menus or split buttons. It differs from the menu control in that it can be clicked directly and pushed as a button, or its drop-down list can be dropped down. It can also be configured to act like a toggle button control. It has a click event for when the control is pressed. Here we have 4 split button controls configured with different display options. The first one has a label and image. The second one has a label, and the third only has an image. The fourth one is set to large. To select the menu type, we use the button type property. Now we turn to light mode. The first one was configured to act like a toggle button. The first one also has a button and a menu control. The second one has a button and a checkbox. The third has a gallery button. And finally, the fourth has a button, a menu, and a split button. Next, let's cover the label, toggle button, and edit box control. The label control provides a static label for part of the ribbon. One use case for a label could be to use as a header for another control. A toggle button control is just like a regular button control, except that it has a checked and unchecked state. It has similar display options to a normal button, including regular and large size options. The toggle button has a click event for when it's checked and unchecked. The edit box control provides a place where the user can type a value. An edit box can have a label and or an image. We could specify a default value. The edit box has a text change event. Here in this group called Others, we demonstrate using a label, toggle button, and edit box controls. Switching to live mode, the label control is used as a header for the toggle button. When we press the toggle button, it will prompt us to let us know which state it's in. For the edit box, every time the text is changed, we get the prompt with the new text. Finally, the last control is the separator. The separator control is used to visually separate controls within a group or menu. For example, the window group in the View tab in Excel has a separator to visually divide the controls. The separator is often used in drop-down menus. For example, the Cells group in the Home tab has a split button control for insert. When we drop down the insert control, we see that there are 2 separators used. To demonstrate in our project, let's add a separator to the button group. Let's also add one to menu 5. Even though it is shown as vertical, when we run the project, it will be horizontal. That is just how the visual designer displays it. Here in live mode, we can see the separator in the button group and in menu 5. Thank you for watching this video from Excel Dev Studio. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. This video provided the foundation for adding a ribbon to your Excel automation solutions to give them a natural flow similar to standard Excel features. Please make sure to check out video number 5 that covers creating and customizing a task pane.